Today we'll learn how to draw a Rubik's Cube in 3 different ways. So 3 ways that we can look at the Rubik's Cube. The first way is as you see it now. You only see one side of the Rubik's Cube. So a Rubik's Cube is a cube that has equal sides, equal squares, and within the squares there are 9 squares. It's a grid of 9 squares within a cube. These are toys or brain puzzles that you manipulate to try to get all of the sides the same color. So this one already has been completed. The ones that I drew are all jumbled up. When you color this, it's your choice if you want to have them be neat and complete or if you want to have them be multicolored like the ones you see here. We're going to draw these together and in order of the way that we would see them or perceive them. So we'll start by learning how to draw a 9 square grid, or as you see the Rubik's Cube from this point of view, a top-down point of view, where you only see length and width. So create, to the best of your ability, a square. So all sides are the same length. This length is longer than this one. I'm just eyeballing it. I'm just guessing. That looks a little better. So then I will create these parallel lines. That is squarish enough. So my next step is to create the grid. And what I'm going to do is draw 2 marks equidistant from each other and from the edges. So breaking this into thirds by making 2 marks. It's okay if they're not perfect. So I made 2 little marks on that side. I'm going to make 2 marks on this side. Same thing, equally distant from each other, equally spaced out. Then I'll connect those 2 marks. I'm using a marker so you can see my drawing very well. You probably would want to use a pencil, or if you're feeling confident, you can use a pen or a marker too. Do the same thing up here. So equally distant, break this into thirds. So you're going to have 3 boxes here when we're all done. At the bottom, break it into thirds. We are going to do this step of breaking the edges into thirds for all of the cubes that we draw. We're going to draw all 3 today. This first one is just a top-down view. Connect your points. Carefully draw a straight line. If you want to use a straight edge, you can, or doing what I'm doing is fine. Just freehanding your drawing. And you can color it in at this point, or I'm going to move on. I'll color everything at the end. So the second cube here is if you saw 2 faces of the cube or 2 sides of the cube. So the way that I drew this cube is I started with, and I'm going to draw it kind of big over here. I started with the long middle line. So the long central line, that's going to be the longest line. Try not to curve your line a little bit like I just did. And it might help you to use your whole arm to move. So pick your arm up off the table. Don't rest your elbow on the table. Use your whole arm from your shoulder. That might help you draw these longer lines. And on either side of it, try to space these out equally. I'm going to draw 2 lines that are shorter. So I'm not going to start all the way at the top. It has to be shorter than that line. And I'm going to make the line go shorter than the bottom. So it's smaller than this one. And try to make the same line over here. So I'm going to measure it with my fingers and move that an equal distance away. So you can measure it with the other 2 fingers too. And I think that's about right. Just eyeball it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Looks like this line's a little longer than this one, so I'll correct this one, make it a little longer. You'll have two shorter lines, one longer one. Now connect the top of all these lines. So one straight line as a diagonal to the top, one straight line diagonal on that side, and the same on the bottom. So at the bottom of the lines, and at this point, it's going to look like a box. This looks very similar to the house we drew in our most recent art lesson. The only difference is that you have diagonal lines on the bottom and on the top. The house we drew, the diagonal lines were only on the top. The bottom line was flat with the earth. So my next step is to make the grid. We're going to use the same method of finding the third points. So break this up into 3 pieces as best as you can. So eyeballing it, just guessing. You don't have to measure it unless you really want to be particular about it. So I found those 2 points and these 2 points to be the, not the middle, but the third pieces. So I can break that up to 3. I'll connect these lines as best as I can. Do the same on this side. So break it into 3, break this line into 3 lines, connect it. But now it's getting kind of tricky. Remember, this one is your middle line. Find your middle line first. Break this middle line into 3 lines. So it's not going to be the same length here. It's going to be a bigger space. So do your best to make this accurate. It's about the best as I'm going to do right now. On the edges, these 2 lines, you're going to do the same thing. So break this into 3 lines. Now connect it. So this line, draw a diagonal to this line. Draw a diagonal from this point to that point. And it should start looking more like a Rubik's Cube. So these are diagonal lines. They're not straight across. If I drew this line to this line straight across, it would go above that point. So go to the middle point. It's a diagonal line. This one's also a diagonal. It's not straight across. And then you have a Rubik's Cube if you were to look at it from the edge. So we finished a top-down view. We finished an edge view. Now we're going to do a corner view. So viewing it with the corner in the middle. And you would see 3 faces of the cube. So I am going to have you make a point kind of in the middle, somewhere where you're going to have space around the outside, and draw a line going straight up, and then a line going at a diagonal and a diagonal. So you're trying to make this into thirds as best as you can. So make the space even. Don't make one space smaller than the other. Okay, try to do your best to make this even. Please take your time with this step. If your line is, if your shapes are very thin right here, start over. Try again to make these spaced out evenly. So these lines are going out with equal distance between them. All right, the next step, you're going to make some lines that are parallel. So I'll start on this corner. I'm going to draw a line that is parallel to this line. So it's going to match the line. It's going to go straight up. And try to make this line the same length as that line. Looks like this one needs to be a little longer. You'll do the same exact thing on this edge. This line is going to copy this line. So straight up. Try to make it the same length. If you need to measure it, you can use your pinchers, your fingers. Put the fingertip or my fingernail on the edges of the line. Keep it, don't pinch it anymore. That's good enough. And then you can connect those two parallel lines to the middle. Okay, kind of looks like the roof of a house at this point, but we need to continue here. So this line that I'm going to draw is going to be parallel to this one. So it's a diagonal. This is the part where you might have a little trouble, but it's okay. And then this line is going to match this one. Then connect those two. Now you have a box. You can see 3 sides of this box. You're looking at it from the corner, which is in the middle. To make this into a cube, we're going to follow the steps of breaking the line into 3 pieces. And I think the easiest way to do it is to start with this middle line here. So I'm going to break it up into 3, break this line into 3. I'm going to quickly, you can pause, break this line into 3. The more you practice seeing this line in 3 pieces and placing the point there, the easier it will get. It just takes practice. Connect the lines again. So connect these ones to the center. Connect to the center. And now break this top line into 3. So one at a time. This one broken into 3 would be about here and about here. And it goes all the way to this line. So break this line into 3. And the cool thing about when you draw this line, you already did half of the work of creating the cubes on here because you have the third points. And all you've got to do next is find the third points for this side because this side is across from this one. And then those lines can continue on that way. All right, so on this side, break it into thirds, break it into 3. So breaking into 3 by drawing 2 lines. Now we've got a lot of lines here. Please make sure you are drawing to the correct one. I want to draw the third lines on this edge. And then connect. And same thing. You already did half the work of finding the points. So find the points on here and then you can connect again. And then you can get ready to color in your cubes. When you're finished drawing, color in your cubes. I use markers for the top ones and crayons for the bottom ones. I don't care what material you're using to color, but please color them in. Cubes have 6 colors, so choose 6 different colors and you can be random about it. And then turn this assignment in on Google Classroom.